Hello again, Struck. Today I wanna share a video about the Tower of Chaos God skills, a bit of an in-depth overview of each character's changes in the God skill tree. Yesterday when I was recording footage for my update overview, I realized the footage I recorded ended up too long. So for my patch overview, I ended up just speeding up those recordings and muting them and doing a new voiceover over them because they were too long, too in detail, and I thought it would be nice for those of you who are interested to make them as a separate video, to release a video dedicated specifically on all the changes that were made to the God skill trees for every single character. So this video would be just exactly that. Feel free to voice your comments in the section below regarding what you think about the changes, whether you're liking how they're reworked. In general, I think everyone is much stronger. Everyone's getting more flat damage, a little bit less crit damage, but more HP, more armor. In general, I think that's a great change, and the way they shifted those god skills are amazing. So without further ado, let's start showing you all the heroes one by one and listing all the changes, and hopefully you like it. Hopefully that video would be helpful to those of you who are wondering how one might want to build each of those characters now that those changes have been made. On Evontier's side, I can tell you that Evontier is still a hero that you can get a good version of the build without using the second god skill tree. But something that I really want to look into on Evontier is counter spell combined with the counterattack damage nodes over here. There's a lot of counterattack damage we can get all the way to here, like 140 or 150% I think is when I counted the nodes. And this is also next to Arcane Manifestation Superior, which gives us 20% damage reduction. I always wanted to use that in a build, but I couldn't justify taking the nodes on the way to it, and now I kind of can. And in fact, even this skill might be fun to try, although I think the chance for this to proc needs to be made clear to the user. It's not nice to say has a chance to heal the players, but not say how much this chance is. I think it's around 25%. When I tested it, that's kind of how it seemed. So it's not that worth it, but maybe someone might enjoy it. But yeah, I think counter spell and stacking counterattack damage in the gear and using those would be a fun thing to try. Now let's talk about some of the changes over here. You can see armor, HP here, health, energy, then counterattack damage over here as well, and over here 10% cooldown reduction. This is amazing for builds that rely on it, so you might really wanna consider into investing that way. See, right now I've got 19% cooldown reduction because there's some more cooldown reduction over here, 3%, then another 3% here, and then another 3% here for 9, and then this one 10. Now there's crit damage here and a lot of crit damage if you go this way, this side. There's also like 40% crit damage in the first 4 nodes here. There's also this one, I just had a spare point. So they removed the crit damage here, and now it's just damage and damage over time. And here there's 10% armor piercing, which might be nice for certain builds. And then there's some crit damage here, which as I said, crit damage on this side. Then if you want more crit damage or cooldown reduction, there are some other changes. Like this side here remains all the way around, counter spell and stuff remains crit damage, but overall the crit damage you can get in a build is much less than before, I think, on every single hero, but the flat damage you can get is better, and having more flat damage will increase your crits in any way. So it doesn't matter whether you don't have that much crit damage. As long as you have more flat damage, you're still gonna be having those big crits, and overall it's a much better situation right now, because everyone would see an increase in the flat damage and the HP. So the cooldown reduction over here got kind of moved, We still have 5 cooldown reduction here though, and I think a lot of builds would be opened up to some testing, especially on this side of the skill tree. You can see you get flat damage here on the way, not that much crit damage again, but you do get a ton of flat damage and damage over time. Whether someone wants to go for more crits or for more flat damage, it's up to them. But for the cooldowns, there's a lot of better choices now, and I think people would really enjoy this change. I think people would like it. So I'm not gonna go that much into detail what got moved. I kind of think I showed you most of the things, and make sure to let me know how you've reworked your versions of the builds. Now let's move on to the elf to Elessa. And just like on the other heroes, on Kiva's side there have been some rearrangements and major changes to what is where in the God skill tree. Majorly it concerns where the crit damage is, where the counterattack damage is, and where the cooldown reduction is. So you can see that there's some nice cooldown reduction all the way on this side. So if you're playing a build like a turret build that needs some cooldown reduction, or any build that needs cooldown reduction, yeah, you might wanna invest into this side here. Before we could get crit damage from this node, and we could get crit damage from this node, and there was a ton of crit damage on this side and on this side, but now there isn't that much. And before there was a ton of crit damage we can get on this side here, and that's the major way people would have been investing before. Now things are slightly different. There's crit damage all the way to this side, and there's also still some counterattack damage. That used to be the place for some counterattack damage, but now it's mostly crit damage on this way. This used to be also for some counterattack damage, but not anymore. Now what have we here? Some armor, armor and HP, and armor and HP. So I guess this side here is for the more defensive setup, where you're healing based on your HP percent. That's why I guess they're giving you more HP to just make sense. Then this one again HP instead of cooldown. This one is where the counterattack is. And it makes sense to have maybe counterattack damage around a build like that one maybe. I'm gonna have to experiment testing, see if a build like that would work well, a Jet of Steam build. I didn't like it before, but maybe now it might work well. You can see more counterattack this side, and then on that side here we've got some damage and energy, near shell shocked, and near experimental explosive mastered. On the way to here, nothing that fancy besides that champion damage reduction and the bonus damage to champions. So that's kind of like a speedrunny build when playing with others. It's not so bad to use something like that every now and then. Now, if you're going all the way to Engineer of War Superior, you would notice something on the way to it, and after it you're getting a lot of counterattack damage. So counterattack damage builds would probably be amazing with Engineer of War Superior. I'm just gonna have to figure out how to use the counterattack damage other than a more Grim Smite, because that's the only thing that I see that gives us a bonus damage based on our counterattack damage. So other than that I can't think of anything else that might be good to invest into counterattack damage for when it comes to her. So yeah, you see the reworks. I try to maybe show you everything. There's a lot more to discover. Let me know what builds you're using, and hopefully that kind of helps clear things up, what is where, and give you some ideas on what to invest into. I used to use Engineer of War Superior before. Now I use Mastered. so which means 10% less damage reduction, but the cooldown I'm taking on the way to it is much better. Overall you can see I've got a decent flat damage as well with the way I've set my passives. But of course let me know what you're using, what your version of that is. So how did the God's Q3 for Bragiax Biter the Slayer get reworked? Let's just quickly talk about how the cooldown reduction and the counterattack damage nodes got moved. Before we could have some cooldown reduction node here, and then all the way down here we had like a total of I think 3 nodes of 5 cooldown reduction. Now we do have cooldown reduction and counterattack damage on the way to here. So that's for the counterattack damage. All the way to here there's a bunch of other counterattack nodes you can find, and then there's cooldown reduction all the way. If you take the route over here, on the way you're gonna find I think this cooldown reduction, and then this cooldown reduction, and there should be another one somewhere at the start here, like 5 cooldown reduction here. Now where else can we find cooldown reduction? There's cooldown reduction on this side, like 3% here, and then another 3% here, and if you go all the way to this side without taking those side nodes you get like 6% cooldown reduction, and another one here, so that's like 9% cooldown reduction you can see I've got right now. This one here, and this one here, and then there's this one here. Something that's new is health drain nodes. You can get a watt of health drain, I think 49 is what we get or something like that. So there's 10%, then another 7, then there's 10%, then another 7, and I've got another 14% on top of that, so that's what, 34 and another 14, so 48% health drain that you can get from investing into this side. The major thing you would notice when checking the health drain nodes, not this is the health drain nodes, checking all the nodes, those big nodes, would be that there is no more a node that gives you something but removes something. So all those big nodes now give you 2 bonuses instead of giving you 1 bonus and removing 1 bonus. You can notice probably that the crit damage bonuses from this side got moved around, and now you have more crit damage if you invest over to where Spite Smite is. And the armor piercing that used to be here with damage is now here. So if you want armor piercing and damage you might want to go this way, and now the cooldown from here of course also got moved, but you can see there's some cooldown here. 10% cooldown reduction if you go the route towards shitloads of HP, and there's gonna be an interesting build with a lot of HP and then investing into something like Eye for an Eye that gives you counter attack damage, but the problem is you won't be able to get that together with Fighting Spirit Mastered. You might probably try a version with Fighting Spirit, the basic version, then maybe getting Eye for an Eye. I'm not sure even if you can get Eye for an Eye mastered. Maybe just the basic Eye for an Eye, and try to invest into something like Rock Hard mastered, or if you're playing with others, Rock Hard superior, and try and get that cooldown reduction on the way. It might be interesting to just test something like that. I'm assuming there's gonna be a lot of builds opening up now with the way they reworked the passives, so many people would wanna experiment. I will be experimenting before I make some builds to see what works best with the way I like to play the game. So a lot of changes. In general, the counterattack damage from those places is now gone, and we used to have like counterattack damage here and here and here, and now we don't have that. We have other things which are also not bad things that you can get, and pretty much a heavy rework for everyone. And now let's show you the God Skills rework for another class. So on the Wood Elf, the Scout Elessa, a lot of things also changed. Again, all the nodes, the big nodes, giving the double bonus instead of bonus and the negative one. So the crit damage remains kind of around this side, but there's not that much crit damage on the way to it. Also the crit damage from here got kind of removed and replaced with damage and energy. You still have some crit damage here though. And this one used to have some crit damage here, I think, in one of those two nodes. This used to be 10% flat damage, now it's 5% flat damage and 10 energy. There's still some good stuff on the way on that side if you go for a build that uses Assassination or the Wild Incarnation Mustard. So there are some things to take. The cooldown reduction from here got moved, and now you can get cooldown reduction over here, which is amazing as an option. And you can also get some cooldown reduction on this side too, which kind of might lead someone with a health regeneration build into investing one more point for this hunting feast. The health regeneration stuff remained the way it was, by the way. Health regeneration over here is still 2%, still 1% here and 1% here, for a total of 4% you can get. The HP here is not 10%, but now you have resistance to damage over time, which is pretty nice. So they put more counterattack damage on this side, so if you're using physical stuff, you might get that counterattack damage. And if you're using physical stuff, there's a lot of counterattack damage over here, which might work well for an ambush build. An ambush build that gives you damage, physical damage based on your counterattack damage. I could get this to give me 100 and something percent on my other build, I think. On this build, of course, that's when I have all the pieces of equipment on it. Right now I don't have all the pieces of equipment. You can see I'm missing 3 pieces. One of them was blessed with counterattack damage as well. So you can see even without all of that, I'm already getting 85% increase on the on the damage from counterattack. Pretty interesting. Damage over time from here got changed to cooldown reduction and damage. So there's damage over time on the little nodes on this side, and they added some armor piercing, and here we go, more damage over time and damage earlier without having to invest all the way there. So if you're trying to maybe make a damage over time build, it might end up being more viable this time around with the changes that were made, because you get damage over time over here as well. There's also some counterattack damage here, by the way. And pretty nice resistance to damage over time there for those who need it. A lot of HP here. When it comes to that side, which I used to take for some setups, there's some good stuff regarding the bonus damage to champions. There's like a 16 total you can get, which is pretty solid for that little amount of points invested. The armor piercing also got a boost overall. I think the summoners would also love it. The summoners are having some very good times around here, like crit damage, cooldown reduction, crit damage, then cooldown reduction. You can see I've got 25% cooldown reduction with that setup, having all the way to Wild Incarnation Mustard, and then grabbing Devour's Recurring Mustard with Seeds of Blood Mustard on the side, and then crit damage here. Definitely interesting setup for summoners, and a lot of cooldown and good stuff there, like flat damage and crit damage. So enough about Elessa, let's move on to Kiwa and see what changed on her side. Now for Conrad's, for Volen's God Skill tree, a lot of good stuff has happened. See, that's the build I used to play, kind of the setup I used to run on him for Justice of the Empire, the Meteoric set, and for the Blazing Herald set. So anything but the Pistolier, I used to run something similar. One way or another, it could be slightly modified, but that's what I used to run. So you can see now I've got 33% cooldown reduction from my passives, from my god skill tree, then 58% damage and a little bit of crit damage, so not that much crit damage. Basically they added a lot of cooldown reduction around those trees, and there's even more cooldown reduction you can get over here, 6%, and then yeah, that's just plenty of cooldown reduction. You can just poop cooldown reduction with him, which is amazing. A lot of things got changed. For example, this crit node now, of course, it's giving a little bit of damage, not that much crit, but 5 flat damage definitely worthy. This cooldown reduction here remained, and there's some more crit damage and even more cooldown reduction here if you want it, and more damage. So if you want to sacrifice some crit damage and want more cooldown reduction, you can by all means go all the way to here or invest into some of the other stuff. The counterattack remains placed around that site. Whether there's more of it, I'm gonna have to find out and test counterattack builds again to see if they're viable or not. Time will tell. Let's see about the blocked damage and blocked chance. Definitely, I think an improvement overall, because I didn't remember them having 10% blocked damage and 5% block chance nodes on the small ones. And here that's 20% block damage, 20% blocked damage, and now we have 10% block chance. And yeah, a lot of block chance and block damage on this side, so if you're going for something like that, that's good. Then there's some more stuff here regarding armor and HP, gain HP and even movement speed, mind you, which is something new. I don't remember that existing before as an option. Now we've got some damage and cost reduction here, damage, max energy, crit damage, again there's a lot of crit damage changes, and it's still on kind of this side if you want to go crit damage, so you might want to go that way if you want that crit damage build. And you're probably noticing that the big nodes on every hero don't give you negative bonuses. Instead they're giving you 2 positive bonuses, which is the biggest change. There's some more counterattack damage on this side for counterattack builds, something that I might want to experiment with finally again on him. Again, more block damage here, and definitely a lot of changes. Overall, every hero got a boost because they boosted the damage and HP and armor from 2% to 3%, in some cases even 4%. They boosted the cost reduction, they boosted the cooldown reduction, everything seems to have been getting boosted, and the rearrangement makes more sense now. Now there's much more logical sense for how the things are reorganized, and I'm pretty happy with what they've done. So now let's move on to the Mage Elon tier. So this was it for the god skills, how they changed. I hope it was useful information for all of you. Next up for me would be to rework all of my old and older builds and make some new ones, so expect those within the next week and the future weeks. If you've enjoyed this video and want to be notified for when I upload more content like this for this game or other wooters of the hack and slash or shooter wooter variety, you could subscribe to my channel to get those content updates, and you can get notified by clicking on the bell button as well. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope everything was clear. If something wasn't, share your comments, questions, etc. in the section below. Keep it cool, folks. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.